Hey loves, and welcome back to my channel. It is Ijoma here, and in today's video we're going to learn how to make this ankara dress with a ruffled sleeve or a draped sleeve. I have a tutorial that I posted the last time, but I'm yet to upload the sewing video. It's actually taking time. I will upload it after this particular one. It's been long I posted on YouTube, so I decided to upload this particular one before uploading the sewing video. I will definitely do that. So here is the ankara fabric that I'll be using. I have 6 yards here, though I'm going to be using like 4 yards. And I have my doll face fabric. I have just 1 yard here, but I'll be making use of half yard of this doll face. You can see that the ankara fabric is okay. So first of all, we are going to cut out the men dress, and this men bodies, this men gown will not have any half cuts. This dress will not have any half length. So right here I am folding the fabric that we use for the front part of the dress. The front is closed while the back has a zipper. You fix a zipper at the back if you want to. So here is my fabric, and I'll go ahead and cut off this right top. I don't want to have this right top before taking my measurement, so I'll just cut it off. So after cutting off this right top, from there I will take my chest line measurement, my bust point, my under bust, my half length, my hip line, and the full length of this dress. So from there, my chest line is 8 inches. That is my armhole line. It is 8 inches, and I'll mark 8 inches. Then my bust point is 10 inches. I will mark 10 inches. My half length is 16 inches. I'm going to be using a normal dart, so the under bust measurement is not necessary. I'll mark my 16 inches. That is for the half length. Then my hip line is 27 inches. I marked 27 inches, and I want this dress to be short, and the full length of my dress is going to be 35. If you want to make it 36, 37, any length of your choice, you can go ahead and do that. So I'll be using 35 as my full length. You can add another allowance if you want, but I just want to leave it at that 35 plus the allowance. After that, I will cut out this fabric that I have here. Then I will use it to cut out the back part. The back part will have a zipper allowance. I want to cut out the back part before taking my measurements. So I'll fold out another fabric. This one is for the back, and this one will be 2 inches wider than the front fabric that I folded, because it is going to have a zipper allowance. So that 2 inches is for our zipper allowance. I have folded the fabric already, and I placed the front panel on it. Then I'll go ahead and cut out the same thing that I have. The difference is that there will be a 2 inches zipper allowance at the center back. So after cutting out these things, I will extend the lines that I marked on my front panel. I will extend the chest line, bust line, every line that I have there. I will go ahead and extend them. So I am done extending these lines. The next thing that we are going to mark is our shoulder measurements. And remember, if you're taking your measurements, all your measurements should be starting from the center front. Ignore the zipper allowance for that back. So the wideness of the neck we are using is 3 inches. I want to use 3 inches and 1.5 for the depth. The 1.5 is for the back. After cutting out the neck depth for the back, we are still going to cut out the neck depth for the front. So after connecting this neckline, I will go ahead and mark my shoulder. My shoulder is 15 inches, so that is 7.5 on fold plus half an inch seam allowance. It is going to be 8 inches. So I am done marking my neckline. I'll mark my shoulder, and from there I will connect a straight line down to my chest line, and after connecting to my chest line, I will mark my armhole curve. So after marking this armhole curve, please remember to slant your shoulder. Remember your shoulder slant. So I'm going to cut out this neckline for now to avoid confusion. I will cut out the neckline. This is for the back. Remember, we are still going to cut out our proper neckline for the front. So my shoulder slant, and then I will cut out my armhole for now so that we can understand what we are about to do. After doing this, I will find my dart line. So I'm trying to trim off the excess zipper allowance that I have. and I'm also opening up the back. You know, the back will be 2 pieces while the front is unfold. So this part that I opened now, this particular one that I opened now, is for our back. Then from the center line, I will get my dart line. My nipple to nipple is 8 inches, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this is my 4 inches line. I will extend this line, and this line is my dart line. So I'll go ahead and extend the line. So this my dart line will stop at 22 inches. The dart line is touching the hip line, right? But if I'm fixing my dart, I will stop at 22 inches. This is very important. You can stop at 22 or 24. So after marking this dart line, I'll go ahead and take out half an inch on each side of this dart. From each side of the dart line, half an inch. Then I will connect my dart line. So from the center, you will get your nipple to nipple line. Then you will take out your dart allowance. Then I'll take my bust measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches zipper allowance. And please remember, if you are taking your measurement, start from the center front, ignore the center back. Then at the waistline, I will add my 1 inch for my dart before adding 2 inches for the normal seam allowance. Then my hip divided by 4 plus 2 inches. At the knee, I will divide my hip by 4 and I'll mark exactly what I got there. So I'm trying to adjust all my measurements before connecting. So divide your waist, your hip, your bust by 4, and then add 2 inches seam allowance. So after doing that, I am connecting my lines for the gown. This is the hip area. Then from the waist area, I will connect to the bust. Then I'll go ahead and cut out. As you can see, this gown does not have any half cut. So after doing this, I will separate the front from the back. Then before we do that, we will go in by 1 inch at the center back. This is to avoid our zipper bulge, to avoid bulging after fixing our zipper. I'll go ahead and cut out that 1 inch that I went in by. So this is what I have. If I remove the front, please indicate your dart. I'm trying to indicate my dart. If I remove the front, this is what I have. And you can see that the center back is deep at the waistline to avoid zip bulge. Then I'm trying to mark my dart so that when I'm sewing, I will not be confused. Remember to indicate your dart before removing the front panel. So right now I'll keep the back aside. This is the front. From the neckline, I came down by 12 inches or 13 inches for the neckline. The neckline of this gown is really deep, so you can come down by 11, 12, 13. I marked 12, but I later extended it to 13 inches. Then after that, I cut my v-neck. This is a v-neck. You just have to cut out your v-neck. So after cutting it out, I'll open it so that you can see what it looks like. This is a v-neck. The next thing that I'm going to do is to cut out my lining for the front and for the back. Then I will also cut out the sleeve. After cutting the front and the back, this is the doll face fabric that I'll be using for the band at the front or for the detail at the front. So I just cut out half yard. Then I'm going to fold. I have 2 pieces now, so I will make 3 inches marking. I want it to be 3 inches wide so that after turning it will be 2.5. So I am marking 3 inches. It should be as long as possible. After, you can cut out the parts that you do not need. So this is my 3 inches, and I'll go ahead and cut out. So after cutting it out, I will separate it so that you can see it is 3 inches on fold. Remember, 1 for the right side and 1 for the left side. After doing this, I'll cut out my sleeve. I am using my ankara for my sleeve. So if you want to get a full drape, you should use at least 1.5 yard for each sleeve. Each sleeve of this dress should take up to or more than 1.5 yard, and I will be using my ankara fabric. The doll face fabric that I have is not up to 3 yards. You should use 3 yards for this sleeve so that your draping and everything will be fine and full. So I'll cut out 2 yards. I'm using 2 yards for now, but if you are making your own sleeve, use 3 yards so that your drape will be very full. So after cutting out the 2 yards, I divided it into 2. That is 1 yard. You can see this is 1 yard, and I will hem one side of this sleeve. Then I'll go ahead and fold these 2 yards that I cut out, and the sleeve should be long. The length of this sleeve on fold should be up to 40 inches or 30 something inches, so that after draping everything will be nice. So I am done cutting out my sleeve shape. I will gather and then I will drape. And remember to hem the down part. So this is the gown. I am done cutting out my lining. I'll go ahead and reduce the length of my lining by 1 inch, so that after turning it with the gown, the lining will not be showing. So I'll go ahead and reduce the length by 1 inch. This is for the back. I'll also reduce the front. So after reducing this lining, you go ahead and turn your main fabric with your lining. This is for the front. I'll also go ahead and reduce it. So after reducing, I'll turn this fabric with the lining. So here is my front panel. I am done turning the down part, the side, the neckline. Right now I will fold it into 2 and I will mark my darts. Remember to take your measurements for your darts. Your darts should start from 1 inch below your bust point, and it will stop at 22 inches. That is like 4 inches before your hip line. So my bust point is 10. It will start at 11 and it will stop at 22. Then from the center I will mark 4 inches. So after doing that, I will indicate how I want it to look like. Then I'll also mark it on the other side of this gown. I'll go ahead and fix my dart. This is for the back. First of all, I will close the zipper allowance for the back. It is really necessary. So close the zipper allowance before fixing your dart, so that you will not make mistakes when fixing your or when picking your darts. So I'll go ahead and mark out my allowance before joining. I'm using 2 inches, right? I'll mark out the allowance before joining. So I have closed the back part. This is what I have. I'll now go ahead and pick my darts for the back. So after picking the darts for the back, you will keep it aside. Then you fix your front detail before joining the back and the front. Here is my front. I am done fixing my dart and it is looking neat. Iron. This is the back. I am done fixing the darts, and I have ironed. So here is the detail for the front. I'll go ahead and close them by 1/2 inch. So after closing by 1/2 inch, I will trim off the seam allowance. I will trim it down. The seam allowance should be trimmed down. Trim it down so that the seam allowance will be very small. Then after trimming, you will turn with your safety pin. You go ahead and turn with your safety pin. So after turning with this safety pin, if you are ironing this detail, that seam allowance should be at the center. When ironing, the seam allowance should be at the center, so that no one can be seeing where you turned this detail from. This is more like a band. So after sewing, trim down this seam allowance and then turn. This is the second one. I'll go ahead and turn it out. Then after turning, I will iron it very well so that it will be flat. So after turning it out, you iron, then you place it on your gown, on the front panel of your gown, in order to get that beautiful detail that we have at the front. So this is what I have. I will place the seam allowance at the center, then I will iron. Make sure the seam allowance is at the center. Make sure that it is at the center, then you will iron. So right now I am done ironing and it is time to fix it on my dress. This is what I have at the end of the day. It is really beautiful. So here is the front. I'll go ahead and place it this way. You can see the way that I'm placing this detail on my dress. So make sure that it is well placed and pin them down. Pinning is very important so that when you are sewing, you will not have any difficulty. So this is for the second one. I'll also go ahead and pin down. So I'll cut off the remaining length. After cutting it out, give like 1 inch allowance before cutting out the remaining length. I'll pin down. Then for the down part, I'll fold the down part in and then run a stitch on it. That's how I'm going to do it. So you can see how I'm folding it. You fold it and you pin down. You also fold the other one and you pin down. So after pinning this particular end, you will pin the rest of these details so that they will not shift when sewing. This is really important because they need to be at the center in order to give you this fine finishing. So after pinning down, I'll go to my sewing machine and I will run a stitch. I will hold everything down with a stitch. You should run 2 stitches on them, one on the right side, one on the left, and you also run on the midline. So if you want to use a hemming gum to place this thing first of all before running a stitch on it, it is also a nice idea. You can place a hemming gum below it, then iron before running a stitch. So this is what I have. I am done running a stitch, and I'll go ahead and join the front and the back panel together. I'll take my bust measurement, my hip and my waist measurements, and before you sew, please pin down your dress so that none of them will be longer than the other. So I'm trying to pin everything down. After pinning, I'll take my body measurements and I will go ahead and shape. So this detail that we have at the back, if you want to add it to the front, you can also add it to your front. That is the doll face detail. If you want to add it to the front, you can as well add it to the front. So after shaping, this is what I have, and I have ironed. I'll go ahead and retrim my armhole. We are making a puffy sleeve, so if your shoulder is 15 inches, if your normal measurement for your shoulder is 15 inches, you should reduce it to 13 inches. Do you understand? Reduce it to 13 inches so that when you fix your puffy sleeve, it will sit very well on your shoulder. It will sit right on top of your shoulder. So I'll go ahead and I'll retrim my shoulder. You can see that I'm reducing the shoulder measurements, and I'll also retrim my armhole. I'll repeat the same thing on the right side. Then after doing that, I'll go ahead and make my ruffles on my sleeve. You know, our sleeve has ruffles. If you want, you can join this sleeve to the armhole before draping or before picking your ruffles, but I want to pick the ruffles on my table so that we can see what it looks like. So here is my sleeve. I am done hemming the down part. I will start making my ruffles, and as I'm making them, I will be pinning them down. So this is what I have. Let me start from the armhole area. So as I am pinning down, I'll be picking more. Once you pick, you pick and pin. Then for the side, you go ahead and pleat the side. So this ruffle does not have any particular pattern. It is up to you to drape it the way you want. If you want to drape it on your dress form, fine. If you want to drape it on your table, fine. And you will repeat the same thing on the other sleeve. You should do the same thing on both sleeves. Then after doing it, you go ahead and add it to your dress. You can add an elastic at the down part if you want. Like at the end of the day, I'll still add an elastic to the folded area of this sleeve because I want it to be tight on my body. So at the end of the day, this is what I have. I have placed the sleeve on the dress, and I'm trying to adjust some places. I'm trying to drape some places. Then after doing this, you will use your needle and thread to stitch down all the areas that you pinned. You will stitch down all the areas that you draped so that the drape or the ruffles will not loosen. So this is what I have. I hope it is beautiful. Thank you guys so much for watching my video, and please do not forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so that anytime I upload a new video, you will get notified. You can also follow me on Instagram at Sew with Ijoma, on Facebook at Sew with Ijoma, TikTok at Sew with Ijoma. If you have any style requests, you can send it to me on Instagram. Bye.